Hail to you, Zhao Gongming. Hail and thank you for the fortune you've provided me this past week. I ask that it please continue. All right, he did actually ask me for. Oh, sorry. Hey, welcome. Welcome back. He did actually ask me for something different today, and I think you can see it there. He did ask me actually to blood my offerings to him, which is something he hasn't done before. He's not really saying why, and I mean, I could get an answer, but why? You know, I don't mind. I do it for a whole lot of other entities, so why not for him? But thank you, Zhao Gongming, as I said, for the fortune. Please enjoy these offerings which I have prepared to you, and please continue your fortune. Thank you. So, let's see, I don't know if you can see that or not. It's kind of dim in here. All right, it's blooded. So, all right. All right, lots going on this week. A lot of work going on this week too in the spiritual realms here. So we've had posts at least prepared for the next step in spirit keeping, which I talked about. I've got some posts up about that. Let's see, we've got I just scheduled two weeks of the 76-week Goetia that I'd completed. So that's going to be up. I have things scheduled to come up every 4 days through April 1st. So, all right. Zhao Gongming now has his offerings, specific offerings. Okay, there's been a theme this week, and the posts aren't out, but we'll go and talk some about it. But part of the theme this week is kind of the ethical side of magic, and what's right and what's not, manipulation, spirit keeping, a lot going on there. And I've talked quite a bit about it. I mean, the posts go into a little bit more depth, and but essentially these are things that thoughts like this, restrictions like this, or no restrictions, all this stuff needs to be reevaluated over time. You know, things that may have been okay then may not be now, and just because some book says it somewhere doesn't necessarily make it true. For example, one of the topics that we've come over today, over this weekend, I'll say, is that there can be differences between the letter of the law and the path you're supposed to follow. Right? I'm not talking about governments here or anything like that. I'm staying in the spiritual realm because that's where it's appropriate for this channel. But like the spirit keeping thing, for example, most of my spirits are here voluntarily, but some aren't. And that was an agreement between me and Hell and Hecate. I've touched on that in the past. I don't determine I don't judge their guilt or innocence. That isn't my place. I'm not going to know. Right. So even though subjugating a spirit like that could be considered wrong, because I am absolutely restricting its movements and ability to freely act as it sees fit. But doing that is kind of why it's in a cork, right? So that seems to be the issue, right? People get all upset about that, but I didn't touch on this in the article, so I could touch on it here, but everybody seems okay with it when it's a goetic and they're using a ceremonial system, right? Oh, oh, what's the difference? One's more temporary than the other. It's still an infraction on spirit freedom. So some of these things are literally 21st century issues, or I don't know if 21st century really should be said anymore, but somebody will probably take offense to that. But some of the things that were right, like subjugating the goetics, like that, just in general normal dealings with them, is seen today as something different. So what is right and wrong, and what can sometimes change in those areas, and that's kind of what I've been reevaluating over these past few weeks, is that, and genuine reflection on it, not just some knee-jerk emotional reaction, because I typically don't have knee-jerk emotional reactions that I act on. We all get waylaid by something, but I like to keep an even keel if I can, because it might trigger my PTSD if I don't, if I'm being frank. So we've been looking at that, and that actually tied into a lesson I got from Marbus. It's been over a week ago, and it happened just at the time change, because people in Maryland are idiots and think that daylight savings is a good thing. And so I couldn't remember having the conversation that night. I got sidetracked before I could write it down. Then by the time I could, he was basically like, go to bed. Which is what a friend of mine had said like an hour before that. And what the conversation was about, though, was largely about acting as a god and not being quite as concerned with how things look, per se. Not as in like how things look to like visually, but be concerned about the opinions of some of the other people. But now, I happen to think that we should care about them to an extent, because I know a lot of people just don't give a fuck, and usually they end up acting similar to psychopaths and sociopaths, because they also don't give a fuck. So I am very aware that that's how they act, and so I have a tendency to kind of maybe overcompensate for that a bit. But so it's been an interesting week. A lot of thought, a lot of reflection. Yeah. So no big reveals or anything like that this week. There we go. Yeah, kind of boring, I guess, but it still happens. I mean, most magical work should not be, there's a lot of mundane work that has to. Actually, that was in one of the things entries I put in too. It was about keeping secrets. I think it was with Gamigan, if I remember correctly. He was talking about secrets and how I keep more than a few, and I was like, well, doesn't everybody? And he made the comment that my practice did too. And one of the things I had to say about that was that if I involved everybody in every single little tidbit, breadcrumb, if you will, that I got, I mean, that stuff usually comes together over time. So that would be kind of boring. All right, that's all I got for you this week. Nothing earth-shattering. Probably nothing terribly interesting either, but hail Zhao Gongming. Thank you.